Happy Valentine's Day. Leah Michelle, Resistance Chicks, coming at you February 14th, 2017. Raise your hand if you love my man, Paul Joseph Waston.
I do, and he's got a new video on the new conservatism is the new counterculture, and it makes perfect sense. It's what we've been seeing lately.
Yeah.
It's like all of the intelligent people are coming out of, we're tired of the MTV, we're tired of the naked people on TV, we're tired of the communism and the socialism and all these progressive things,
Right.
the Agenda 21. We're
Being
just tired
moral
of it.
and being wholesome is the new cool.
Yeah, women
Because it's so different.
feminists have gone so far, there's nowhere else to go but over the cliff.
Right.
I mean, it's full-on communism, start killing people, which is kind of what they want to do. I'll show you another video with
Right.
Tucker Carlson. But I want to just kind of let Paul Joseph Waston talk a little bit, and because what he says is really good.
Lost the political argument, leftists are desperately
Having
clinging to this idea that they have the monopoly on cool, and that no countercultural movement could ever be created by the right. In fact, I've never
Who
seen
thinks we're
so
cool?
many members of the lefty Twitterati so triggered
You're
as when
cool.
I tweeted,
You're
conservatism is the new counterculture.
Love it.
So I tweeted it again, and again, and again, and again.
I'm triggered.
Seriously, I know the word triggered
He
gets
gets-
overused now,
Oh,
but this
it's
was
like a war on Twitter
deluge
for
of
this guy.
butthurt. What are they so afraid of? Well, as Breitbart said, politics is downstream from culture. Most young people who aren't paying attention to the news get their opinions from celebrities. Hollywood and the entertainment industry viciously polices the boundaries of accepted opinion, so that anyone who strays from the leftist orthodoxy is ostracized and excommunicated. They're all for diversity, until it comes to diversity
This
of
tiny
thoughts,
little
and that's
box.
why celebrities are so...
Listen, I like...
That's great
like,
face.
I like chocolate cake, but I don't want to eat it all the time. And
Yep.
they put us in this box, and it's like, it's so cool, and they just,
You can eat any kind of chocolate cake that you want,
as long as
as
it's
long as it's chocolate cake.
the same recipe.
Right.
Oh, fucking boring.
Oh, sorry.
None of them dare express an original
Beep.
opinion. Because if they did, they'd be hounded out of a career by their intolerant peers. I mean, look at Eminem. He used to be happy to
They kinda
offend
look alike.
absolutely everyone. Christians, lesbians, feminists, the gay lobby. Now he's calling Donald Trump a bitch. Oh, how daring. That's so controversial. I mean, it's not like every other virtue-signalling twat in Hollywood and the music industry is doing exactly the same thing, is it? But the left is starting to lose their omnipotent control of counterculture. Why? Well, counterculture used to be intrinsically leftist because the right had political power. It was a natural counterbalance. But up until very recently, the right had been getting its ass kicked in the culture war for decades. So now we have a whole new generation emerging who have no memory whatsoever of the right being in political power or having any dominance in the culture war. All they've experienced is the left's total domination of the culture war and their intellectual intolerance of anyone who goes against the grain. So for teenagers and 20-somethings, all they've ever known is having dominant culture fed to them by the left. So it comes down to this. You can't be the dominant culture and the counterculture. That's why conservatism, or a particular brand of it, is becoming the new counterculture.
I think that kind of
Sums it up.
sums it up for real, and I really like what he's saying there.
Minus the F-bomb.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry about that, guys.
It's kind of like everybody is going crazy and insane because the whole system that has been set up is falling and crumbling.
Right.
And you have some different thought processes that have come out of it. I realize that not every one of you is a born-again, spirit-filled Christian watching us. But I appreciate that you do watch us and that you take out the things that you can agree with us on. Because not all of us should agree on everything, and it's actually good that we don't all agree. But if we can come together and we can discuss certain issues, like,
Sure.
I don't think all of you agree with us on GMOs, or all of you agree with us on organic foods, or things like that, or vaccines. But we should be able to discuss these things.
Right.
And if you are on, and I really don't like to label them, but for a lack of a better word, if you're in the progressive, they call themselves the progressives.
Sure,
If
they're
you're
proud
in
of it.
the
It's like a
liberal camp, if
label.
you're in the leftist camp, they have no message left. We have an article here where the Democratic Party is like dead. It's gone. It's like dust. They have to reinvent themselves in another sort of like reinvention of evil. The Democratic Party has moved very far to the left. I mean, like I said before, they're so far to the left, they're going over a cliff. They're going to have to come back around, and then they're going to start over as conservatives.
Or something. They kind of remind me of the demons that said, Jesus, can you please send us into the swine? Sorry, go ahead.
Former Senator Jeb Webb on Sunday said the Democratic Party has moved very far to the left over the past 5 or 6 years. In an interview on NBC's Meet the Press, Webb said the Democrats are looking at 2018 and they don't have a message.
They don't. All they have is like Ashley Judd to get up there and say, we're nasty women. That's the message they have.
When you can't have a Jefferson-Jackson dinner, which was a primary celebratory event of the Democratic Party for years because Jefferson and Jackson were slaveholders, Webb, a candidate for the 2016 Democratic Party primary, said, they were also great Americans in their day. Something different has happened to the Democratic Party. And actually, I have to tell you that because of the rewriting of history, you don't recognize. We just need to do a whole episode on Jefferson, who was one of the most amazing men who fought till his teeth fell out against slavery.
He wanted to put the outlaw of slavery in the Declaration of Independence.
Exactly. The people who believe that regardless of any of these identity segments, you need to have a voice in a quarters of power for those that have no voice, and we've lost that for the Democratic Party. Webb said the Democrats haven't done the kind of self-reflection they needed to starting in 2010. You've lost white working people, you've lost the flyover land, and you saw in this election what happens when people get frustrated enough that they say, I'm not going to take this, he said. There is an aristocracy now that pervades American politics. It's got to be broken somehow in both parties, and I think that's what the Trump message was that echoed so strongly. And it's kind of like you're getting it a little bit. Other people, not so much. They're screaming, they're crying, they're yelling in people's faces.
They want their juice boxes and their crayons.
He says, I'm comfortable over my vote, and my vote is private to me, but at the same time, I will say I did not endorse Hillary Clinton.
Wise man.
Very interesting. He said the Democratic Party's got to do some real hard looks. And that was pretty powerful.
I think a lot of us overly judged the Democratic Party thinking that everybody voted for Hillary just
Right.
because they're a left-leaning person. Just like all of them think that everybody voted for Trump, which is just simply not true. We're case in point.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. I mean, they have nowhere to go. There's nowhere for them to go. They're done. Will they reemerge as a different beast is the question.
Right.
Because what they've done right now is they keep ringing out nothing's left. The women's rights.
The only way, the only direction
racism.
for them to go from here on in is New World Order, globalism,
Right.
you know, depopulation, Agenda 21, that sort of thing. That's the only route that they have to reinvent themselves.
Right.
Unless they just kind of back off and say, okay,
There
you
was
know what,
a
that's too
Waters
much.
World on Bill O'Reilly where he went to ask the kids who cut class in New York City why they were cutting class. It was against Trump's travel ban, but they couldn't name like more than one country that was on it.
Right.
They named several that weren't on it.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked them, well, do you think we should, stop terrorists from coming into their country and make sure that they're coming in for the right reasons? And the more he talked to them, the more he realized that the kids had no idea what they were protesting. They just wanted to skip school.
Sure, absolutely.
And then they said Trump's a racist.
Right.
Over and over again. It was just crazy.
So I think at this point the left is probably going to take a little cues from Merkel. She's got her re-election coming up, and she's already decided, you know what? Whoa, you know what? No, we're not going to.
I don't think they're going to do that.
any more people to come in here.
I don't think they're going to do that. I think they just are going to keep
More?
screaming until they die.
They may. Maybe they
Die off. It's kind of like, and this is what I wanted to explain to someone who was talking about Beyonce. And I appreciate you if you're watching this video. When we are talking about Beyonce being naked and how she shouldn't twist her hips and everything goes flying, right? Everything at the top goes twisting. And she's completely naked, right?
And you know what? I don't know if you guys actually saw the parts where she was naked because I was covering her up, but she was naked.
So here's the thing.
A sheer curtain covering your naked body does not qualify as clothes.
Women have been oppressed throughout different realms of society.
Sure.
I mean, like in serfdom sometimes before women get married, the head dude would come and get the chick. And,
Don't say.
okay, so women have been treated badly throughout history, and so they've always kind of had this kind of fight. But then what happens is like when you're trying to balance things out, if you tilt it in the other direction, then it
goes too far.
It's unbalanced. And so what's happened with the feminists who are like, I need to be treated right, I need to be treated right, I need to be treated right, bam. And now they're running around naked, they're leaving their kids, they're putting them all in daycare. The families are kind of broken up. I mean, and things aren't working right, and there's divorce, and it's out of shift. Wherein, when you keep it balanced. So when we watch the Islamic guy or the girl say to Stacey Dooley, you look naked.
Even though she was fully clothed.
I thought she had a completely modest dress on. It was short sleeves and it was long. And I think throughout history, in most cultures, would say that was a modest dress.
Yeah.
Okay? So we have to think clearly and use nature's God to help us say, of course the girl's modest. You have a headscarf on, you're covered up to your eyes like this.
Yeah.
That's retarded.
Okay, let's not use that
No,
word.
it's retarded. It's regressive, it's retarded. It makes no sense because you can't, nature's God would tell you, you can't function. You can't ride a horse like that. You can't bend over and garden like that. If you're out there in like 100 degrees, you can't be outside like that. Okay? So, counterculture is now saying, hey, let's wear clothes that we want to wear, that are comfortable, that work, right? That we and not feel that we're constrained to a certain type of clothing, but let's be modest so that when we're going everywhere, people are like, wow, okay, your assets are out for everyone to see, you know? So, what?
Nothing.
So this is the counter culture. That's
For those of
happening.
you that didn't see it, and I would not suggest Googling it, just so you can know, she was behind a sheer curtain with nothing on but chains in like that. Don't bring it up.
I'm not.
Covering her chest, which was not covering it at all.
Right.
You could see every outline of what she was not wearing.
And you
She was naked. That's what naked is.
The progressives actually wanted a form of communism. They started the communism in Russia. And they eventually wanted communism and socialism to completely overtake America. But with our Christian ideals, we would constantly fight back. Right. And what Paul Joseph Waston said there, you know, when it comes to prayer in schools and abortion and all these different things happening, Christians, conservatives, whether you're Judeo-Christian values, whether you're maybe an agnostic and you kind of believe in God and you believe in like a moral standing, we have been beat and beat and beat and over and over and over again to where we can't even speak out against anything anymore. And right now, there's been a shift. Because now it's cool, and now it feels good to be on the other side. It really does
sometimes feel good to go against the grain.
Right,
To go against what... And so we have all these kids that have been fed Captain Crunch their entire lives. And then you've got these young kids also. We saw them at the Trump Thank You rally.
Right.
Rising up, and it's like, wait a minute, they're starting to realize, I'm hungry for some meat and potatoes.
Right.
I don't want this Captain Crunch stuff anymore. And then you got the other kids that they can't make a diet change because all their body knows is Captain Crunch, Captain Crunch, Captain Crunch.
Right.
Which is a unhealthy cereal here in America.
Right. So, we put together this blog, and if you want more, I know some of you have asked, can you talk more about Jesus Christ? Can you go more into the religion area? We have a blog. It's called Isaiah 58 Ministries, and we'll put the link up, and you can go delve into that and feed yourself that on the Word of God, which I highly suggest you do. I'm going to pick out a couple snippets. Here is John Adams, one of our founding fathers, and he says, remember, democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. And that the reason that is because you can always get a mob of people.
Sure. Like the French Revolution. We bring that up a lot.
There never was a democracy yet that did not commit suicide. And to give the viewers in the UK or in Europe the idea, we have a constitutional republic. And in that, it's not necessarily, you can't necessarily have mob rule on a certain issue.
Because you have 50 states, roughly, that all come together and they are individual. They're almost sovereign. They're not really, but they're almost sovereign. And then they send representatives to Washington. So you can't have a real, like, quote unquote, the states have a democracy.
So the reason
the federal government can't really have a democracy. We have a republic.
This is kind of, somebody also asked us to touch on cultural Marxism.
You guys ask us about that a lot.
And so the best way I can describe that is that when you have this industrial revolution, industry is great and inventions are great, but when those inventions take away the dignity of man, then you have to have workers who do subhuman jobs.
Labor, yeah.
So you literally have somebody whose sole purpose in life now is to put one screw on a car all day long for 8 to 12 hours a day. That is what is called subhuman work. When you just have workers, and Rockefeller and big guys up here, Rockefeller's quoted as saying, "I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers." So they literally, and one day I'm going to do my education blog for you guys, because if you understand that, at least in America, and I'm sure over in Europe, but I think you guys might have retained a little bit more education, but I don't know, because you got the EU out of that. They went to Prussia. Our delegates went to Prussia in the mid 1800s and saw that they had like a assembly line, and they could get all the kids to believe and think the same thing. Whereas actually in America, most of our education was done either by a pastor in small schools. And mostly self-education, and then college was actually started around age 14 or 15, or apprentices were started at that same age. Right. And so you have a tremendous amount of self-thinkers, self-educators who literally wake up in the morning and they think, what am I going to do with my life today? Isn't it so fantastic to live? What can I learn? What can I do? And so you've got a blacksmith who, when he embodies himself in his work, and he expresses himself in his work, and he is needed, right? And so you have farmers who are needed, and actually 60% of all Americans up until the 1900s were farmers. And they woke up to every day, and you might have worked hard. You might have worked 14, 16 hours a day, but you felt alive. Right? And if you're sitting at an office desk, you don't feel alive. And I would rather feel alive for 50 or 60 years than feel death and only have like a couple hours a night to kind of watch TV, and then have a Saturday and Sunday.
I mean, listen, you guys, you all know this. You go to work for minimum 8 hours a day, and you come home and your brain is fried. All right, and if you're a working mom, you've got to cook meals, you got to take care of the kids, you got to help out with homework, you got to keep the house clean. Same with you dads, and you've got projects around the house, and really all you want to do, because your brain is on fuzz, is sit in front of the television and watch something.
So we have this industrial revolution, right?
And it's not normal, by the way.
And they began to also at the same time.
And it's not your fault.
Teach all the kids the same exact thing, and then something flipped. You'll notice that in the past 100 years, everything's kind of changed, and they have streamlined things. And we've got computers, and we've got all this industry, but people are...
Education itself has become its own assembly line.
Right. And people are less happy because of it.
Right.
All right? Because it used to be that America was a land of dreams and dreamers.
Right.
Right? And now you can be what you want to be, as long as it's right here in this box.
Right.
As long as you can pick like 4 things, and then that's your 4 things.
Ford is praised for having invented the assembly line. I think we all know that. We learned that in our assembly line education, right? Leah and I think he should be, cast into eternal hellfire, which I think he probably was, for the assembly line.
He actually, Ford and Carnegie,
Rockefeller,
they created an education system where what they did was they took out God, and they literally rewrote history. They started to fund the colleges, fund what the teachers were learning, and the history teacher at the time fought that. So what they did was they gave fellowships to new history teachers, to train new history teachers, to teach a new history.
Realizing that they would just die out.
If you can rewrite history, then you rewrite everything that made America great, and then you put people in a box. It's like taking out one of the wonderful things in your brain, like lobotomizing your brain,
Don't say
so that you
touching
can't
my head.
think straight.
I want a lobotomy.
So anyways, then you've got Woodrow Wilson, who was put in by a set of Democrats and progressives who created this Federal Reserve System. And this is what ruined any sort of freedom that we had. They took all of our gold. And then we had this
Which was
wonderful...
completely unconstitutional.
We had all
Beyond.
of this happening at one time, and then we had the property taxes and we had income taxes. The major problem with property taxes is that we have a home here, and we will never, ever, ever be able to just own it.
We rent it,
Exactly.
essentially.
And in certain areas, your rent is higher than in other places. It's a serfdom. And we are serfs.
And it's unconstitutional.
And 65 to 70% of that goes to pay for these factory education systems.
Right.
To teach kids to stay in the box. But the cool thing is,
Like Paul
that
Joseph
you
Waston is
can't
saying.
control it. It's kind of like in Jurassic
We
Park,
bring this up a lot. It's a
where
really good
life
analogy.
will
They'll
find a way. And so the kids, I get goosebumps when I'm
They're
thinking
all
about
bred.
this.
The dinosaurs, if you haven't seen it, all the dinosaurs are bred to be female, so that everything gets done within the lab. New babies are made in the lab and not out on the field. Well, part of the problem with Jurassic Park is that life found a way through these hybrid frogs that, in all female societies will produce male. Sorry.
Okay, so now that you have a Jurassic Park intro, the idea is that people are waking up and they're recognizing it's totally the Matrix, blue pill, red pill, whatever, and people are like waking up and they're finding more and more people, which is why
Right.
you're here watching us right now.
Part of the resistance.
Part of the resistance. So my mom has on here, an indentured servitude is actually illegal in Ohio, but when you have property taxes, it's actually a serfdom, an
Yeah.
indentured servitude that you never pay off, ever. And so the cool thing is that Americans' eyes are being opened. I'll read this quote from John
Not just
Locke.
Americans' eyes, but
Those are not at all to be tolerated who deny the being of God. Promises, covenants, and oaths, which are the bonds of human society, can have no hold upon an atheist. And taking away of God, though but even in thought, dissolves all. How do you truly, if you don't believe in a reward system of rewards and punishments, then you can lie, then you can cheat, then you can steal. You also, that's why people who believe in Allah and follow Allah and the Quran can lie and cheat and steal, because many of them are I believe some of them are trying to find God, but many of them believe in this false God, and then so they can lie and they can cheat, and they can lie straight to your faces.
if everybody's not operating on the same rule book, you can't play the game.
Right.
It's that simple. And when you enter, as John Locke likes to call it, entering into society, which now we don't really have a choice, but back when he was writing about it, you did have a choice. When you enter into society, we all have to agree to operate on the same law book.
Right.
And in the United States of America, that is the Judeo-Christian values
Right.
of the Bible
Right.
and the Old Testament and things like that, and the teachings of Jesus. So that's the law book that we have. That's what our founders based our Constitution on, our Bill of Rights, etc., our form of government. So we have to kind of operate, at least even if you don't believe it, you have to agree to go by those rules, because that's the only thing that's going to make a moral
our
society.
our declaration says that all men are created equal and
created
equal
and endowed by their creator
with certain inalienable rights. You can take somebody's rights if they're not inalienable and you're not created.
Exactly.
But if you're an atheist, I still want you to keep watching us. If you disagree, that's okay. Because
Right.
I'm sure with what some of these things that we're saying, the effects of the cultural Marxism, the effects of atheism, you have to see the reason the Russian communist revolution was able to take over people's minds is they took away God.
Right.
And they took away Christianity. And so you leave somebody literally with a hole in their heart and a hole
Right.
in their head and without a purpose necessarily for living. So you start to live for the state. You start to obey the state.
Right.
Put your faith in me. It's exactly what Hitler did. Put your faith in me. Put your faith in the state.
And what I love about what Donald Trump is doing is he's not saying exactly put your faith in me. He's saying I'm going to listen to what you say, and you can put your faith in that.
And in his
I'm
weekly
hearing your
address,
voice.
he said, God bless you, God bless America. And we all feel good when he says that.
Right.
Even if you're an atheist. It
Yeah.
makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Lastly, God created everything. He's got science, government, politics, justice, truth, air, food, water. The
Law.
further you get away from God, And I got to tell you, I'm not the crazy one saying this. John Locke says this. John
Right.
Adams says this. William Blackstone says this.
William
Penn, all great men of literature and reading and writing.
Who
There is-
studied far more than many of the people that kind of come at us with these comments. Like, oh, you guys just don't know what you're talking about. We may not know everything that we're talking about, but we are quoting men that did.
Right.
And they know far more than you do. I'm sorry. They spent their whole entire lives studying this stuff.
Right. And seeing God.
Right.
And so anyways, what did I start on? Oh,
Right
cultural, what were we talking about? We were talking about the counterculture.
Yeah.
And conservatism is the counterculture, and I am very excited to see where we're headed with all of this, because it's a new horizon, it's a new frontier for us.
I just
And
love what
every
he said
day
about
is
these
so
kids
exciting.
who have never experienced, conservative values being in power,
Right.
and they have been fed all this leftist agenda, and you know what? It's kind of part of human nature to kind of want to rebel a little bit.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I think it's more than that, but we'll take that. I think it's a rising up of the call of God and these people just waking up, but we'll take the fact that they just want to go against the grain. You've got the kid that's raised completely religious, and then they want to go wild, and then you got the kid that's raised without any religion, and all they want to do is find God.
Morally, we would say that we tend to lean conservative, but when it comes to things like
GMOs, vaccines.
and just liberty, we're more on the lines of libertarians. People need to have the freedom to make the choices, and I encourage you to follow God and follow Jesus, because with those liberties comes a great responsibility.
Right.
Let me just give you some thoughts from John Adams real quick. The government is instituted for the common good, for the protection, for the safety, for the prosperity, and for the happiness of the people, and not for profit, honor, or private interest
Of any one man, family, or class of men.
And here's the thing. From the Declaration of Independence, I just want to give you a snippet of this. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable. Do you understand what that means?
Yes, it means that mankind is predisposed to be oppressed, while things that are bad are tolerated.
Than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and
Usurpations.
pursuing invariably the same object, invices a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. And you see Donald Trump tiptoeing his toes into security, into creating possibly a different kind of more freedom government, to where we're not controlled by this oligarchy, the New World Order, the globalists,
Agenda 21.
the Agenda 21 people, to where all the chains of, atheism is a chain that has been on our government. Like,
Right.
you can't be a Christian, you can't speak out in
Right.
government, you can't.
It's pretty much a
live
gag order
Christianity.
on
Yeah.
everyone.
Exactly.
Our country can't express its religious beliefs. Do you guys realize the percentage of people in America that literally call themselves Christians?
Is 80%.
It's ridiculous. So in that, we should be able to be a Christian nation, and here's why. Because unlike with the Muslim country, our Christian values don't inflict tyranny on people. It actually gives freedom.
Right.
And when you take away those Christian values, that's when you actually have the tyranny.
And it's interesting to me because a lot of people are like, don't bring religion into this. You do realize, I need you to stop for a second. When you say that, you are taking away someone's right to a freedom of speech, even if you're a conservative. You're literally taking away my right. You're saying I don't have a right to speak about Jesus in government.
Right.
But you don't know my founding fathers.
Right.
You don't know their documents, and I do. I read them. That's what I read for fun. That's what I do for fun, all day, every day.
She does way more than I do.
And in order to understand our Declaration, in order to understand our Constitution, you have to have their mindset. So I make my mind go into where their minds would have been. What were they reading? What kind of life were they living? They were living free. They were waking up. They were breathing fresh air every day. They were working with animals every day. They were working in the field. Even the politicians. You had to even ride a horse to get from place to place. What does that do? It makes you feel healthy. It makes you have a sound mind. It makes you have
It puts you one with the earth that God created.
We have the greatest government in the history of mankind
because of these men. Do you guys realize that when John Quincy Adams got up, we have visited
his home in Boston.
Quincy.
Yeah, Quincy, Massachusetts, 2 times.
And they will tell you in the tour that he would get up, I want to say at 4 or something like that in the morning, and he spent 3 hours with the Lord reading his Bible.
And he would take a walk 2 in the morning before everybody would get up.
3 hours. Okay, these are the men that were shaping our nation. Okay, Benjamin Franklin. Go back and read his writings. Oh my gosh, what a godly man. Noah Webster that gave us our dictionary.
Incredibly self-controlled too.
Yeah.
They would practice self-control. They would practice self-discipline.
Right.
Self-discipline.
Thomas Jefferson
themselves.
said, according to the teachings of Jesus, I call myself a Christian.
Right.
That's your guys' atheist.
I've staked the whole of this nation that our life and our liberty comes from God.
Yeah.
And actually was reading just today and something, a letter from John Jefferson to his daughter because she was all worried that it was the end of times. What should I do? What should I do? It's the end of the times. And he said, basically, paraphrase, do what is right and do what is good. And you'll always be ready. Death is more sure to come than Jesus coming back. But if you do what's right, you'll be ready for death or Jesus coming back.
That gives me goosebumps. Oh my gosh. And this is Thomas Jefferson, the guy that everybody likes to stout as, what is the word I'm looking for? Tout.
Yeah.
Tout as an atheist. It just blows my mind. You guys don't know these men.
Right.
And you need to. You need to get to know these men. Our education system has wiped all of this.
And that is what is so important. If you've gotten this far, you're going to recognize that those are the things that they took out of history. They didn't need to rewrite. They did do a little bit with the literature and everything because they used to use a lot of scripture and a lot of the Bibles and a lot of morality teachings. They wiped that completely out. But they really rewrote history.
I want to let you guys know something. George Washington was known as Bulletproof George Washington because literally he would have holes in his clothing and in his hats.
Get my thingy. Go ahead, Tom.
That the bullets would just kind of go right through him. And he put himself on the front lines in front of everyone. This is obviously before he became president, because he knew that the Almighty protected him, and he got on his knees, just like this picture here, just like what we bring our introduction in with. He would get on his knees and he would pray to God, and he knew that God saved him, and so he put himself out like a shield because
even the
he knew
Indians
that.
fighting against him was like, whoa, you have God.
Yeah.
You have God.
These are godly men.
If you read these stories, you'd realize that there was miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle. Given Watts boys, they fought by taking the hymnals of Watts and put them in their guns.
For wads.
And there's just so many awesome stories that will give you goosebumps and goosebumps and
you know what,
make you believe in God.
We can actually give you some resources. You need to go to Wall Builders and look up David Barton. That'll give you guys a little bit of a taste of how this exciting education, and this is kind of why we really encourage homeschooling, because it gives you an opportunity to educate your child according to the correct history and to get them excited about history, because when you look at these founding fathers and they become your child's hero, and they realize that George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, John Quincy Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Noah Webster, Samuel Adams, you name them all, they were all getting in the Word and they were close to Jesus Christ, then guess what? Your child's going to want to do the same.
Counterculture, when the music is like, take it off, let's do all this stuff, it's like counterculture says, let's be moral, let's love our neighbor. Right. You know what? If you're going to help the homeless, you're not going to go down there in a bikini. You know what I mean? You're going to think about them, not yourself.
Right.
And that's the idea. Communism takes these great ideals and takes away all the godliness and all the goodness out of it and just puts it on a plate. You got to help people and it becomes selfish.
Right.
Okay, but the idea of a Christian is that you're constantly thinking about other people. You're constantly asking yourself, what can I do to bless other people? It's more blessed to give than it is to receive. And Christianity makes you wise not to throw those pearls before swine.
Right.
So that you know that you're giving to the right person who is going to humbly receive it.
Right.
And so Christianity is, as one founding father said, I'd rather have children taught the teachings of Muhammad. I don't think he'd say that today, than to have them grow up solely devoid of God.
Right.
But the religion I mean to recommend is Christianity, because it's the best in making somebody moral and making somebody a hard worker, and making somebody do what's right. And Christianity has been so maligned that nobody even knows what it is anymore.
That's so true.
And nobody knows what it really means to be a Christian.
Right.
We are Christians because we wake up every day, we want to work hard, we want to take care of our family, we want to do what's right, we don't want to take anything from anyone else. If we have extra, we want to be able to give to people who have less than us. And these are the Christian principles.
Right.
So don't get mad at Christians. Embrace them, even if you're an atheist, because they are the ones who want to adopt children, who want to be foster parents, because inside of them they have this desire to do and be good, because their religion, because their relationship with God. I have to tell you that we feel it.
Yes.
We feel good. We feel an anointing. We feel a presence. We feel a spirituality when we treat others better than ourselves.
Right.
When we put others in front of us. When we go against Muslims. When we stand up for people. There's a power that comes inside of us. And it just awakens us. And it just makes us feel alive.
I want to tell you guys something, and I know you've stuck with us this long, you might as well just stick with us for a little bit longer. I can look back and and I've led a lot of people to Christ before, but we've never, as far as I know, we've never made a real true disciple like we did when, if you watched our video about Justin coming off of heroin, watching his salvation and the messages that he would send us, the revelations that he was getting through God, and him asking these hungry questions because he wanted to get to know God. He was falling in love with Jesus, saying things that no one would ever say. Like, you can't just learn these things. It just has to come from God alone. Looking back on that segment of our life, literally is the single most rewarding experience that I have ever had outside of anything, bar none. Like, that is what fills a Christian up, when they get to watch somebody come out of darkness into the light and watch God move on their lives and go from a heroin addict to a hero.
Watch some videos of Muslims becoming Christians.
Oh, it's so powerful.
Darkness, they were once dark,
Yeah.
and now they're full of light. So one more time, atheists, you need to embrace Christians.
Right.
Because Christianity, even if it's made up,
Which
it
it's not,
works.
but exactly.
Even if it was just made up,
Right.
it will turn a Muslim into a good, loving, kind, alive, joyful person who fights against oppression and tyranny.
Right.
You want Christians.
Just
real
Google Isak
Christians.
Abla. I-S-I-K. We've done some videos about her. Abla. A-L-D.
She's alive. She's a powerhouse. There's joy in her.
A-B-L. Anyway. Yes. Very powerful.
Okay.
Okay.
We preached. Elena, are you happy we preached?
Okay, this is Leah Michelle for Resistance Chick signing off, where it's not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell so you get email notifications when we put out new videos, and find us on Facebook. God bless. We'll come back in a minute.
I was called